You think time is moving forward. You feel it. You watch the seconds tick. You celebrate birthdays. You regret yesterday. You anticipate tomorrow. It feels obvious that time flows, that it carries you from the past into the future like a river carrying a leaf downstream. Simple. And yet that simple idea may be one of the most convincing illusions your brain has ever produced. Because when you strip away the metaphors, when you remove the poetry and look at the physics, something deeply unsettling appears. Time does not flow. It does not move. It does not rush forward. In the equations that govern reality, there is no arrow painted across the universe pointing from yesterday to tomorrow. So if time is not moving forward, why does it feel like it is? Tonight we are going to dismantle one of the most intimate assumptions you have about existence, not with mysticism, not with science fiction, but with logic, physics, and a hard look at the machinery inside your own skull. By the end, you may never experience a ticking clock the same way again. Let's start with something painfully ordinary. Imagine a glass falling off a table. It hits the floor. It shatters. Pieces scatter in every direction. You don't hesitate for a second about the order of events. First, the glass was whole. Then it broke. That sequence feels irreversible, obvious, permanent. Now imagine watching that event in reverse. Shards sliding across the floor, leaping upward, fusing seamlessly into a pristine glass that lands gently back on the table. You would immediately know the footage was reversed. But here is the problem. If you zoom into the level of atoms, the laws of motion do not prefer one direction over the other. The equations that govern those atoms work perfectly well forward or backward. They do not care which way you label as future. At the microscopic level, reality does not contain a built-in arrow, and yet you experience one constantly. That tension between what physics says and what your mind feels is where the real story begins. We need a framework, 3 layers, 3 illusions stacked on top of each other that together create the sensation of flowing time. First, the physical layer, what the universe actually does. Second, the thermodynamic layer, why disorder grows. Third, the neurological layer, how your brain stitches memory into a story. If we understand those 3 layers, the illusion collapses. Let's begin with the physical layer. In classical physics, if you record 2 billiard balls colliding and reverse the footage, nothing looks wrong. The motions still obey Newton's laws. Momentum is conserved. Energy is conserved. The mathematics doesn't protest. In fact, most fundamental equations in physics are time symmetric. Replace t with minus t, and the equations still work. That should bother you. If the universe itself doesn't distinguish between forward and backward, then the flow you feel cannot be built into the fabric of reality. It has to emerge from something else. Now move to relativity. Einstein showed us that space and time are not separate stages. They are woven together into spacetime. Events are not just happening now. They are points in a 4-dimensional structure. From this perspective, your entire life, birth, childhood, this moment, your final breath, can be described as a continuous line in spacetime, a world line. It does not grow, it does not extend, it simply is. Think about that carefully. In this view, the universe is not a movie being created frame by frame. It is more like a complete film reel that already contains every frame. The sense of progression is not in the reel, it is in the projector. You are the projector. But before we go that far, we need to address the second layer, entropy. If the microscopic laws are time symmetric, why does the macroscopic world feel so one-directional? Why do glasses shatter but never unshatter? Why do eggs scramble but never unscramble? Entropy. The second law of thermodynamics states that in an isolated system, entropy, a measure of disorder, tends to increase. There are vastly more ways for a system to be disordered than ordered. A whole glass is a very specific arrangement of atoms. A shattered glass can exist in countless configurations. Nature does not prefer disorder morally. It simply follows probability, and disorder is statistically overwhelming. This statistical tendency gives us what we call the arrow of time. We label the direction in which entropy increases as forward. But notice something subtle. Entropy increasing does not mean time is moving. It means certain configurations are more probable than others. The direction we call future is simply the direction in which entropy is higher. The arrow is not fundamental, it is emergent. Now we reach the third and most personal layer, your brain. Your brain is a pattern-detecting machine. It stores information about lower entropy states, memories. You remember the intact glass. You remember yesterday's conversation. You do not remember tomorrow. Why? Because memory formation itself increases entropy. Recording information requires energy, neural firing, chemical change. Your brain can store records of past states because those states existed in lower entropy configurations relative to now. You call that the past. But from the perspective of physics, the past is simply the set of states correlated with your current brain configuration. In other words, your sense of time flowing forward is your brain updating its internal model as entropy increases. Time feels like movement because your brain is constantly rewriting itself. Think about what happens every fraction of a second. Neurons fire, synapses strengthen or weaken. New information overwrites old patterns. The physical structure of your brain changes irreversibly. That change creates a record of what just happened. You experience that record as the past, but nothing is moving through time. Your brain is moving through states. This is where the illusion becomes intimate. Close your eyes and notice something. You never experience the past directly. You experience memories, present reconstructions. You never experience the future directly. You experience anticipation, present simulations. You only ever inhabit the present configuration of your brain. The flow is the sequence of configurations. Consider a flip book. Each page contains a static image. When you flip the pages quickly, you see motion. But the motion is not inside any single page. It emerges from the sequence. Spacetime may be the full stack of pages. Your consciousness may be the act of flipping. Now here is the part that unsettles people. If the block universe view of space-time is correct, then every event in your life is equally real within the four-dimensional structure. Your childhood still exists as a region of space-time. Your future exists as another region. You are not moving toward it. You are extended across it. The reason you don't feel extended is because your brain only has access to one thin slice, the slice corresponding to its current configuration. Your sense of now is not a universal property. It is a local feature of your neural processing. You might object here. If the future already exists in space-time, doesn't that destroy free will? But notice the trap. Already implies time is flowing from a privileged present. In relativity, there is no universal present. Different observers disagree about which events are simultaneous. There is no cosmic clock marking a single advancing edge. The feeling of already is another artifact of how your brain constructs narratives. Physics does not require time to move forward. It requires consistency between events. Let's return to entropy for a moment because this is where many misunderstandings hide. Entropy increasing gives us a symmetry, but the fundamental laws still allow the reversed movie. The reason we never see shattered glass reassemble is not because time forbids it. It is because the probability is astronomically small. You could, in principle, have all the air molecules in this room spontaneously gather in one corner, leaving the rest of the room vacuum. The equations allow it, but the probability is so tiny that you will never witness it. The arrow of time is a statistical statement, and your brain has evolved inside that statistical gradient. From birth, you observe that causes precede effects, that memory points backward, that heat spreads out. Your neural circuitry encodes those regularities. It builds a model of a world in motion. But what if the motion is simply the brain's way of organizing static correlations? Consider a simple analogy. Imagine a long row of dominoes, each one frozen mid-fall in a slightly different position. If you could see them all at once, you would recognize a pattern of progression from upright to flat. But none of the dominoes are actually moving. Now imagine your consciousness as a spotlight, illuminating one domino at a time in sequence. As the spotlight shifts, you experience the illusion of motion. The dominoes do not need to move for the experience of movement to occur. Your brain's updating state is the spotlight. This is why neuroscience matters here. Experiments show that your brain often decides before you are consciously aware of deciding. Neural activity predicting a choice appears milliseconds before you report making it. The conscious now lags behind the physical processes. Your experience of the present is already a reconstruction. By the time you feel now, your brain has processed sensory input, compared it to memory, predicted consequences, and updated synapses. That takes time, tens to hundreds of milliseconds. You are always living slightly in the past relative to the physical events around you. and yet you feel synchronized with reality. That synchronization is an achievement of neural engineering, not evidence of time flowing. Let's confront the deepest discomfort. If time is not moving forward, if your brain is constructing the arrow, what does that mean for change, for growth, for regret? It means that change is not the universe transforming from one state into another in some cosmic unfolding. It means different regions of space-time have different structures, and your brain, located at one region, encodes information about nearby regions with lower entropy. Growth is a pattern across space-time. Regret is a present neural state correlated with a memory. Hope is a present neural state correlated with a model of higher entropy configurations you label as future. Nothing is traveling. Patterns are related. This perspective can feel cold at first, mechanical, deterministic. But look closer. If time truly flowed like a river, the present would be vanishing into non-existence every moment. The past would be erased. The future would not yet exist. In the block view, nothing is erased. Your childhood is not destroyed. It is a region of space-time that remains part of the structure. Every laugh, every mistake, every quiet afternoon exists as surely as this moment. The loss you feel is a limitation of access, not annihilation. Your brain cannot access other regions directly, so it invents a story of passage. Time isn't moving forward. Your brain is moving through states of increasing entropy, leaving memory traces behind, predicting higher entropy configurations ahead. The arrow is in the records. The flow is in the updates. And the sense of now is a thin cognitive slice carved out of a far richer geometric reality. If you have made it this far, you have done something rare. You have allowed your intuition to be questioned at the deepest level. Most people are content with the river metaphor. It's comforting, it feels human. But physics does not owe us comfort, it gives us structure. And in that structure, time is not a conveyor belt dragging you helplessly forward. It is a dimension in which you are extended. Your life is not a fleeting spark being consumed by a rushing current. It is a vast pattern in space-time, intricate and complete. Your brain tells you a story of movement because stories require sequence. They require cause and effect. They require before and after. But the universe requires only consistency. So the next time you hear a clock tick, remember this. Nothing is moving toward tomorrow. Your neurons are updating. Entropy is increasing. Correlations are forming. And from that quiet statistical machinery, the illusion of flowing time emerges, convincing, persistent, and deeply human. Time isn't moving forward. Your brain is simply doing what it evolved to do. And perhaps understanding that illusion is the first step towards seeing the universe as it truly is.